All right, guys, we have some quick hitter games. I'll give you guys a game. You guys give me your thoughts on the game real quick. We'll go Orlando Jones and Astronaut. Orville?
Orlando Jones and Astronaut. That should be a good one. District game between the two of them. Orlando comes in 2-3. Astronaut 2-2. 1-0 in the district. Randy Halleck and them doing a nice job there. 2 losses by a total of 4 points for Astronaut. Tells me they're up and coming. But they're doing a great job. They've scored 83 points in the last 2 games. I like the Astronaut War Eagles over the Orlando Jones Tigers.
Steve?
I like the defense of the War Eagles. Harry Hampton, Nathan Brown, both Friday night locker room player of the games this year. Randy Halleck and the War Eagles are going to win their 3rd consecutive game.
Next up, guys, Cocoa at St. Edwards in Ohio.
Big road trip for the Cocoa Tigers. They again get to leave the state of Florida to take on a very good St. Edwards 5-1 team. It's going to be a tough road to hoe, I think, this week for the Cocoa Tigers. But I'm going to be a Brevard County homer. Steve will probably take St. Edwards because he likes those big out-of-town schools. But I'm going to take the Tigers on this one.
Steve?
2 of the best quarterbacks in the nation, and I'm saying the nation, Jimmy Keefe from St. Edwards, Bruce Judson from Cocoa. Huge win for the Tigers last week. Long trip for the Tigers to Ohio. I'd love to say they're going to come back with a win. It's not going to happen. St. Edwards is going to be a little bit too strong. Cocoa is going to come back and win the games they need to win in the future, but Friday night it'll be St. Edwards.
Excellent game last week between Cocoa and Vieira. One of the best games I've seen in a while. Vieira and Melbourne. Orville?
Vieira and Melbourne. Melbourne, last 4 games, they have scored only 7 points. And they have given up 104 points. Vieira scored 115 points in their 3 losses. So that tells you that Melbourne is really struggling. Vieira, 42 points on the Cocoa Tigers. That's a big thing for a Brevard County team to be able to do. I'm going to take the Vieira Hawks this week.
Steve?
Yeah, Trey Nixon showed he's not only one of the best football players in the state of Florida, but one of the best in the country last week. He put on an incredible performance against Cocoa. They came up short. The Hawks will bounce back. Melbourne's still unable to find the offense. If you look at their schedule from top to bottom, they are playing as tough a schedule as anybody in the county, period. But I don't think they're going to win this week. The Hawks are going to win.
Next up, Satellite and Merritt Island. Orville?
Satellite, first win last week, like we spoke of earlier, over the Bayside Bears. Of course, everybody's beating the Bayside Bears. Merritt Island beat Port St. Lucie last week, 34-7. I like Jimmy Batch and the guys at Merritt Island to come up with another big win this week.
Steve?
I think it'll be a low-scoring game. Satellite has a pretty good run defense, only allowed 85 yards to Bayside last week. The last 2 weeks, the Mustangs' run defense has been terrific. They held Fulton from Space Coast to 39 yards 2 weeks ago. They held their opponent last week to 41 yards total. So I like the defense of the Mustangs at this point, coupled with Batch and Taquan Pratt. Merritt Island's going to score some points in a relatively low-scoring game, but the Mustangs will win.
Palm Bay Pirates taking on the Titusville Terriers.
Titusville has lost 2 out of the last 3 games, giving up 40 points to Astronaut last week, and Palm Bay shut out Melbourne 42-0. Brian Langford Johnson, he is the big gun from the south, 226 yards and 4 touchdowns. Quarterback Stuart Brown, 122 yards and 2 touchdowns. I like the Palm Bay Pirates.
Steve?
Last year, the Terriers defeated the Pirates 24-20, propelled them to the playoffs. I don't see it happening this year. Orville mentioned Langford Johnson. All he's done the last 2 weeks, 437 yards rushing and 8 touchdowns. He alone is going to be too much for the Terriers. And Titusville's got to learn how to hang on to the football somehow or another. 8 turnovers against Astronaut. You're not going to beat me and Orville with 8 turnovers. Well, you might. But,
well, no.
You might, but Palm Bay is going to win the game.
Space Coast visits Rockledge.
Rockledge with a bye last week. Space Coast, their game postponed due to the weather, so both teams have actually 2 weeks of practice to prepare for this one. Rockledge 2-2 overall, Space Coast 2-1. Rockledge's new staff is building confidence among their football players in all aspects of the game. I'm going to take the Raiders.
Steve?
Interesting matchup. Space Coast is hard to get a read on. 1 week they'll look very impressive, and then the rain-out game against St. Cloud when they fell behind 18-0 in the first quarter would get you to scratching your head. But they do have Cornelius Fulton in the background running the football. The Raiders have Freeman and Mitchell running the football. That's a you pick 'em. That's a tough one. I'm going to go with Space Coast. Fulton. I like the power running of Cornelius Fulton. I think he's going to be the difference.